All right, welcome back to a new season of Nassau Coba Monthly. I'm Brian Sullivan, the president of the Nassau County Correction Officers Benevolent Association. I'm here with Second Vice President John Hogan. Say hello, John.
How we doing, everybody?
The best color man in the business. Behind the glass is James. Say hello, James. Hello, James. James says hello to everybody. All right, we're in a new year, 2020. This month, I'm going to do a little bit of a recap of what we started last year, where we are on a lot of issues, and where I'm hoping we're going to be going in the future. We had our election last October, and I want to thank all the members of Nassau Coba for coming out in force and giving us a rousing support. All of my my board members and myself were all reelected with very big numbers, and I think that's a testament to the work that we've been doing here, and getting our message out, making sure that Coba's out on the forefront of all these issues like bail reform, criminal justice reform, and I sincerely want to thank all of our members for their support on this, in particular keeping all of my guys in place that I got a very good working relationship, and I'm sure, John, you share that sentiment?
No, we work well together. We're doing a great job. Nobody's half-assing it at all. It's a good thing.
It's a good thing.
Just keep going.
And it's a first in Coba's history that everybody was reelected with rousing numbers. So I think that's a sentiment that we could all share. Just a quick review of the first year. Last March 2019, we started this podcast as an avenue to get information out to our membership. In this new modern age of social media and podcasts and everything else, I think it's a very valuable tool that we can get. A lot of times people complain that they don't get to see us often enough. They don't get this, but they know that we're out there doing the work. And when we do these types of things, podcasts, social media, Facebook, and Twitter, and all that stuff, they see the things that you're doing on a much faster basis, and you're able to get the message out. A lot of the topics that we covered last year was all the stuff that was going on in Albany. Starting last March was the budget, where I was telling everybody about what's going on with bail reform, discovery reform, and how all this stuff was being hidden in the budget. There weren't public hearings about any of this stuff, and it was going to be changing the landscape. We were in Albany with the Downstate Coalition that we started. I actually, I'll take a little bit of a pat on the back with that myself, because I was made a big push to get Nassau, Suffolk, Westchester involved in the supervisory unions, also involved in a Downstate Correction Coalition, and they all gladly got on board. And New York City Corrections got involved also. New York City captains, New York City wardens, and assistant deputy wardens got involved. And we were actually doing a lot of good work up in Albany last year. We pushed back the peace officer status issue. We pushed back HALT legislation, and we got involved with HALT helping out the state corrections guys, and Mike Powers, the president of New York State Corrections, nice Coba. He wanted to come down and he wanted to get involved with our organization. So that's, again, I keep using the word testament. I think it is definitely a good testament for the work that we're getting done, and the political action that we're getting done, and making sure that people know exactly what goes on in corrections and the things that we need to do. As far as bail reform is concerned, in that first season one, we talked about how we all agree that there's always room for a little bit of reform in anything. There's definitely room for changes. There was room for changes in the criminal justice system. They talked about the Khalif Browder case in the city, where a guy was languishing in jail for whatever it was, 2 years because he boosted a backpack, and he was in on a $500 bail. I think anybody in their right mind would agree that somebody shouldn't be sitting. I wouldn't want my son or anybody sitting in jail for a year and a half or 2 years on a $500 bail that they weren't getting out on. But what ended up happening after that, is we all see what's going on in today's papers. They didn't really just tweak what needed to be addressed. They threw the whole baby out with the bathwater. So that's the stuff that, I'm going to go more with just reviewing last year before I get into that stuff down the road. But that's where we got the coalition going. We were able to push a lot of things back, but then a lot of our legislators did not listen to us and went ahead, because they were getting led around by the nose by a lot of these progressives that took over in the city. And it's just, last year we were fighting a lot to make sure that they kept the judicial discretion in there, that judges had a say in what went on. And a lot of our local senators on Long Island told us that they were never going to vote for anything unless it had the judicial discretion in it. And lo and behold, it all got hidden in the budget. And no hearings, no public hearings, no stakeholders allowed to speak. And when they voted on it, there was no judicial discretion. So that's how we end up being where we are now. That was the biggest part of the first podcast we had last year.
We're going to touch a little bit more on that later, right?
We're definitely going to touch more on that later on. The second episode that we did, we talked a lot more about bail reform and the consequences of the law. We talked about 50A, protecting corrections and police officers' personnel files. That's going to be another issue coming up in this new session because the hits just keep on coming. We were able to fend that off last year, but that's going to be another big issue this year. We talked about how the city took over basically. The city senators and these, like I said before, took over what's going on in Nassau County with the elections. And a lot of these people in our county and in Suffolk County and upstate counties and things like that, they're fearful of these progressives, even though they're small in numbers. They're fearful because they're all being threatened with primaries. So a lot of these different groups, they're afraid of having a primary. We have people that are on the Democratic side. They definitely help us out. People like Peter Rabati in Brooklyn, they're big supporters of governmental operations, and they do a lot of things with pensions. These ones that are way over on the left, they're threatening to primary these people, and they're not friends of law enforcement. We talk about millennials and things like that, but it's just that there's I don't particularly bash millennials, but they don't seem to get a grasp of the history of what's gone on here, and if you don't get instant gratification, then we just want to throw everything out and start all over again. But there's a long history of people that have supported us in law enforcement, supported us in unions, and you can't just throw those relationships away because you didn't get your way for 5 minutes. And we don't like law enforcement. We don't think we should have cops. We don't think we should have jails. There's a big bad world out there.
Nobody should be in jail.
Nobody. Nobody should be in jail. Everybody should be allowed to freely roam. Again, in the second episode last time, we talked a lot about the Long Island 6 senators, Todd Kaminsky, John Brooks, Thomas, Gorin, Martinez out in Suffolk County, and Kaplan. These are all people that took over here. Long Island used to be heavily dominated by the Republican senators, and they were able to push a lot of this craziness back. But then after, corruption scandals in the Republicans and younger people coming in and losing some of these races, all of a sudden the pendulum swings the other way. And you're dealing with a whole new Senate with a whole new mindset, and it's a little hard to navage these waters for all of us.
Way too far the other way.
It went way too far the other way. Last year, we were talking a lot about staffing problems at the jail and state commission problems. We all know that at the very least, the last 2 years, the last 3 summers in particular, we had a lot of major problems with staffing. They didn't hire in the jail. They were able to hire 3 classes. We got over 90 correction officers in there, but we also had mass retirements. We just had, probably at least another 25 people retire.
We're just keeping up right now.
Basically keeping up right now, and because of bail reform, we all see that the jail is contracting. They're closing dorms, and we're on top of things like that because we have to worry about safety and response issues and things like that. But we lost a lot of people. They finally hired a lot of people, but right now we're kind of sitting just waiting to see what the effects of bail reform are going to be on where the water level settles is in our jail and all the other jails. Another issue that we touched on last year, just to refresh everybody's memory, is grievances and gripes. And Liam Castro, our attorney, and Brian Doyle came in here and gave a very, very informative and good demonstration on what is a grievance, what is a gripe, what is a disciplinary grievance, what's a contract grievance, time frames for NOPAs and class action grievances, the definition of what a NOPA is, a notice of personnel action.
They were great. They did a great job explaining that, and Brian did a great job in full detail.
Right.
A lot of people came up to me after that podcast and really said, "I understand. I'm bitching and moaning, and it has nothing to do with a grievance."
Right. It has nothing to do with the contract. There's definitely there's some training I'm going to be given to some of the new delegates that came on. A lot of people are really they're made aware of. When you come in and you start doing this stuff, that you can bitch and moan all you want about you don't like the way something is, but it's not in your contract. A lot of times there are not mechanisms to fix something just because you don't like it. We can try to do it fix things from a political angle, but you can't grieve a gripe.
Right.
You can only grieve something that's actually in your contract.
And I thought they did a great job of explaining that too.
Right.
Both of them, Liam and Brian.
Right. It's definitely it's stuff that I've been dealing with for a long time in this union. Is you constantly have to drill things into people's heads that there's labor law that you have mechanisms to go after the county for, or the state or whoever you're dealing with. There's different types of lawsuits like the longevity and NIFR and all of that type of stuff. But if there's something directly in your contract that they're violating, and if it's not in your contract and it's not a labor law, then it's a political thing that we have to try and
Right.
fix. Just lastly, touching on whatever, we also had Sean Reardon, our workers' comp attorney, and Dennis Morris were in the studio discussing workers' comp and 207C. Sean Reardon, we brought him on and retained him, and he's the number one workers' comp attorney that we recommend. All of our people are directed to him first. He's got a fantastic record with all of our people, with winning 207C cases, winning 3-quarter cases, and he also actually gave us a very good benefit that he will provide free services and applications to our members for their disabilities and stuff in exchange.
They work well together too, both of them. Dennis and Sean work great together.
They work very well together, and they're both in the same thing, the same type of business, and sometimes I joke they seem to share a brain with some of this stuff, and it's a little, it can be convoluted because it's a little bit different than just a regular grievance process. When you're dealing with injuries and you're dealing with our captain that's no longer in the union, that's in charge of making 207Cs, Mr. Peabody, the monopoly man, making decisions on people's injuries, that you have to keep on top of these things, and we've done very, very well at keeping them at bay.
Dennis does a great job at that.
And Dennis does a great job. He walks all of our members through injuries, disability, retirement, what steps are taken to get you there, and it's
them explaining what should go in an 85I to an injury was excellent.
Right.
It was excellent. And I think that's so much information that these guys need to have before they sit down and write their report. It was great.
That's one of the biggest problems that we've run into here as a union for since we broke away is people didn't know what to put in their reports. They didn't know what to write. You have to describe the incident, and you can't be afraid to put in detail. So, sometimes our members are of the mind, or they're given bad advice that less is more in your report. That's 100% wrong. More is more in your report, and you have to, if you get seriously injured on this job, and you didn't put in your report how you got injured, or the mechanism of how you got injured, or what the circumstances were, or I was responding to a thing, and there was an inmate did whatever, and I got hurt. You could get a 3-quarter disability, a 3-quarterable disability, and if you don't write it the right way in your reports, you're going to get screwed.
Thrown out. Yeah.
You have to be in the performance of your duties. You have to be. That's the most important thing. Is you have to be in the performance of your duties. You have to be on duty. Doing something related to the job. I wasn't in the men's room. I wasn't in the hallway. I didn't run out to my car and it did whatever. It's you can't be afraid, and I've run into this many times in the past. Trust me, with grand juries and court cases, and I sometimes I bore people telling stuff they don't want to hear, the old man stories. But I was on trial years ago in federal court, and I've been to grand juries. What you put in your report is the story, is the gospel. So the difference between you or an inmate or somebody getting indicted, or you getting a conviction on an inmate that assaulted you, is what's in your report. If you put nothing in your report, and you don't have anything in your 32B substantiating the horrible thing that happened in this incident, people are going to walk away, and you're going to be back dealing with them again. And it's you have to be able to articulate what's going on.
Yeah, that was a great segment in their podcast, at the description of what should go in the report and how it's written. It was very good,
without a doubt. And there was some of the old timers in the past. They used to tell guys, like I said before, less is more in your reports, and don't put too much in your reports. That's 100% false. You need to describe exactly what happened, and the more detail, the better off you are. We're going to get into the next segment in a couple of seconds. That was just a quick recap of the first year of Nassau Coba. We're going to take a break here for a second. I'm Brian Sullivan, president of the Correctional Officers Benevolent Association. Me and John will be back.
Helix and Gene is the #1 medical wellness company on Long Island. Their unique system was created by medical physicians, functioning medical practitioners, and spine stabilization specialists. Through proper scientific use of their in-house DNA technology and their #1 rated food sensitivity test, Helix and Gene is able to collect information from your body that will help you become your best self. Their emphasis is on your health. Weight loss is just a byproduct. The most unique aspect of their program is their personal coaches. This separates them from any other program in the market. Helix and Gene clients are never alone. From the moment they decide to embark on their journey to the very end, the ongoing support and guidance clients receive from nutrition and fitness coaches is truly what helps them succeed. Our coaches are there to hold your hand until they feel that you are ready to sustain yourself. Unlike other programs, Helix and Gene clients learn how to sustain what the program has taught them. You can find out more about Helix and Gene by visiting www.helixandgene.com or calling 516-723-9854. That's www.helixandgene.com or 516-723-9854.
All right, welcome back to Nassau Coba Monthly. I am Brian Sullivan, president of the Correction Officers Benevolent Association, back with John Hogan, second VP.
Season 2, Episode 1.
Season 2, Episode 1. We're gonna we just finished the whole review of the first season. I'm gonna get into another segment now, basically talking about the criminal justice reforms that are reshaping our state, reshaping our job. And there's basically a big question out there of what exactly are all these reforms going to do? Are they going to be repealed? Are they going to be rolled back? Are they going to be tweaked? Are the reforms going to be reformed?
Hey, Brian, can I just interrupt you for 1 second? There's a lot of people don't understand the definition of bail reform and how it applies.
Okay.
You know, in our area. Just do me a favor. Just give me 2 minutes on what is bail reform and how does that affect us?
And basically what the best way to describe it is coming right out of the Center for Court Innovation, the summary of the major components. As we all know, bail is allowed in the U.S. Constitution. You're not allowed to have excessive bails, things like that. On April 1st, 2019, in the New York State budget, as I said before, hidden in the budget, no public hearings, the whole 9 yards, New York State passed sweeping criminal justice reform legislation that eliminates money bail, cash bail, and pretrial detention for nearly all misdemeanor and nonviolent felony cases. These measures went into effect January 2020, and basically what that is, it's a bit of a bullshit line, because it is definitely in effect for all misdemeanors. That anybody arrested for a misdemeanor in New York State, there's 1 or 2 minor exceptions related to a couple of sex crimes. But all misdemeanors, you will not have to pay bail to secure your liberty pending your trial, pending your case. And the biggest part here that I've had a major problem with, and I've been very, very vocal about this on social media and, in the legislature, and I'm going to be going up to Albany next week talking about this stuff again, is the definition of nonviolent felony cases. Again, this is all after arrest, prior to your trial. Are you going to be sitting in jail, or are you going to be at liberty walking around? Now, not the penal law, and what people are missing here. The penal law describes violent offenses and obviously murder 1 is a violent offense, murder 2 is a violent offense. But there was a description under bail laws that are effective January 1st, 2020, I'm sorry. Prepared by a senior executive district attorney in the Queens District Attorney's Office, that has since been taken down off their website because they elected a very progressive new DA in Queens. But back in November, he put out this 4-page document that basically describes what all the non-violent felonies are according to the penal law in New York State. Now, judges in New York State, and as such, under the bail reform laws, they cannot set bail on any of the following crimes and most attempts to commit these crimes, and must release the defendant on a non-monetary condition, regardless of his criminal record, regardless of his ties to the community, or any previous bench warrants or any other cases. None of that can be taken into effect. And as a friend of mine, Michelle Eskenazi, who runs the Empire Bail Bonds, and obviously she's been very involved in this because they shot a torpedo into the bail bonds business with this stuff. But she refers to it as a la carte criminal justice, that The judges cannot take into account your risk of flight, your risk to public safety, which is paramount in our end of the world, and just being a citizen of New York and anywhere, not having anybody be able to take into the account your risk to the public safety is insane to me. But also, they can't even take into account that you've done this crime before. You know, you come in now, but you got a clean record. It's kind of like what they did with our computer system where they took away all the non-contacts from your last thing. Right. And when you come in now, you got a clean record again. And meanwhile, all the same assholes are on the same floor and you're fighting with them. It's the stupidest thing in the world if anybody thinks this is real. But according to the penal law, there is this, and I'm not going to read through every one of it because there's 4 pages. There's probably 200 crimes here. But some of the things that jumped out at everybody right away, which is why they were all standing on our heads and yelling from the rooftops. You have burglary in the second, residential burglary as a hate crime, commercial burglary, also commercial burglary as a hate crime, robbery in the second degree, which is robbery with a weapon, and also robbery as a hate crime. You have criminal sale of a controlled substance in the first, second, third, fourth, fifth degree, use of a child to commit a controlled substance offense, criminal possession, criminal sales. You have assault 3 as a hate crime, reckless assault of a child by a daycare provider, reckless assault of a child, period. Stalking in the second, third, and fourth degree, vehicular assault in the first and second degree, menacing. That's menacing somebody with a weapon in the first, second, and third degree, including all of those degrees as a hate crime. Reckless endangerment in the first and second. Stalking, now this one I love, 120.6 of the New York State Penal Law, stalking in the first degree while committing a sex offense is not a violent crime. That's incredible to me. Stalking in the second, third, and fourth. Criminal obstruction of breathing or blood circulation. Criminally negligent homicide is a nonviolent offense. Vehicular manslaughter, aggravated
these
vehicular
lunatics
manslaughter.
even, I mean, did they open the book?
Listen,
did they even take a look?
I believe that I said this in one of our previous podcasts, that I've spoken to members of the Long Island 6 Democratic legislation, and 2 of them said to me straight out they didn't read the legislation. Senator Gorin, that does part of Nassau and Suffolk County, they didn't read what this meant. They were just, because they were all wrapped up in I have to get the budget passed so I get my school aid. I have to get these things, this little pork for my districts.
That's incredible.
That they didn't even read this stuff. Well, now they're all unlawful imprisonment in the first and second degree. Criminal trespass, blah, 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 grand larceny, welfare fraud, bail jumping. That's for all of us in the jail system. Bail jumping in the first degree, which is a failure to appear on a Class A or B felony, is a nonviolent felony by the penal law. You will get issued a desk appearance ticket or released on your own recognizance. If they happen to catch you on a warrant, you get pulled over by a cop out in the street, they find that you got a warrant on you for bail jumping in the first. That used to be one of the biggest things in our jail. You'll go to arraignment court. You'll have to get arraignment court because there's a warrant. You'll get released on your own recognizance. The lunatics wrote this.
People have already proven that they are not coming back.
That they're not coming back. We just had the case the other day where this guy had 2, I believe it's 2 DWIs since Christmas out in Suffolk County.
Oh, yeah.
The guy has a long, storied criminal history. They got him in on the first DWI and the second one, released him both times. The third time, he kills this guy. I believe his name is, I want to say Maldonado. I don't have it in front of me, forgive me. But he killed, this guy was just out. He's a graduate. He's going to do this, college graduate. He was going to go to all these big plans. This guy killed him. They locked him up, and what did they do again? They released him. Does anybody think that this guy's going to go out and he's going to go right into a program, or he's going to voluntarily go get an ankle bracelet? He went right back out again. Guess what happened? He had a court date. He did not show up for his court date, so they issued a warrant for him. We did, and I'm going to get into it in a second. I've been asked to do a lot of town halls regarding this bail stuff, and we did one last night with Pat Ryder, the Nassau County Police Commissioner. Some of the legislators are asking us to sit down and explain all this stuff. And in the middle of that, he actually stood up and he says he just got the message on his phone that Nassau County Police picked this guy up on a warrant. The guy from out in Shirley, they picked him up on a warrant. They brought him in, and from all indications, the judge will not be able to hold him again for not showing up, because it has to be willful and persistent refusal under the new bail law to not come back for your court date. So, and he's over at arraignment today, and we got to see if they're going to release him again. And it's just what these people are thinking with this and why there's resistance to roll these things back is beyond me.
Yeah, Commissioner Ryder said it last night. He goes,
Right.
in the morning, they're going to let him go.
Right. They're going to let him go again because their hands are tied. Part of the bail reform law is that these judges have to release these pretrial detainees on the least restrictive means possible, which doesn't necessarily mean they're going to get ankle bracelets, doesn't necessarily mean they're going to get, a bail for a heavy duty thing. The least restrictive means possible. We're going to be on the honor system now. So we had this woman, Campione. She's been all over the news. She was in for, she was in our jail on a $25,000 bond for burglaries. They let her go on New Year's Eve. She went out and she committed another couple of burglaries. They arrested her, let her out. She did another burglary, arrested her, let her out. They did another one, they arrested her, let her out. And there's not allegations. There's things about there may be some mental issues that need to be addressed there. I don't know if there's any substance abuse, but that's one of the biggest thing that gets me too, is that these people that they're arresting, and we all know corrections it's not supposed to be Shawshank Redemption. It's not Oz. Corrections, it's in the name. It's to correct behavior. And in our jails, we have the drug programs, we have mental health programs, we have mental health doctors, and we all talk about these things, and sometimes we joke about the methodology of some of it. But that's what's supposed to go on in jail, whether you voluntarily get into it to try and help you with your case, and it actually helps you, or you're forced into it by a judge. These new laws, they have to release you on the least restrictive method possible, as long as you promise that you're going to come back to court. So now all these people with severe mental illnesses or not so severe, but they have behavioral problems, they have addiction problems, they're not going to get put into any programs. They're not going to be helped at all. They're going to be kicked back on the street. So that's the biggest problem I have with this progressive movement, which shows me the absolute hypocrisy of it, that it's complete bullshit, is because it's here because the system is biased against Black and brown people. It's biased against poor people, poor versus rich. If you're poor, you can't get bail, but if you're Harvey Weinstein and you're a fat old white guy, you can get out. It's absolute horseshit, because you're kicking people out that have to avail themselves or have to be made available to these programs to help them. And it's funny because I spoke to Senator Martinez. She's out in Suffolk County, and she's very dismayed by a lot of this stuff. She's one of the Long Island Six, but she's fighting to try and do some rollbacks on this stuff, and I'll give her credit for it. She told us several times that she represents some districts that are high crime areas. There are some minority areas, and she's very fearful of this bail reform thing, because she said her community is going to be hurt the worst, because that's where the high crime is, and that's where people are going to be victimized the most. And then you have people with addiction problems. They just don't get the help. The mental health problems. I've told people I've had some personal issues with family members that have some issues. My brother's been suffering with schizophrenia for 40 years. I've been dealing with this. I could cite chapter and verse for this stuff. And if he didn't get help years ago, God only knows what would have happened to him. But now these programs are thrown out the window. There's no diversion court. There's no anything. You go back out on the street because the system is biased. Now the system's biased against mentally ill and drug addicts, and we have this opioid crisis on Long Island that's just it's still raging. You have gang members. The MS-13's been bringing drugs on our island. They released 300 inmates from the Nassau County Jail because of this bail reform, and they started doing it January 1st. We did a lot of press about that January 1st. They were supposed to do it January 1st, but they started doing it November 1st because and this was coming from the courts. I don't believe that this was coming from the county itself. It wasn't Laura Curran ordering that these people be relieved. This was all coming through the courts, and it was directed from the state courts on down. They want these people out because they didn't want to see what an absolute shit show this bail reform is going to be. And you don't want 300 inmates running up Carmen Avenue, running through Eisenhower Park, or running up through Riverhead.
Running down past the high school.
Running down past the high school, running past the old folks' home next door. But this was all done in a very calculated way to try and say there's nothing to be seen here. Nothing to be seen here. Don't worry about it. Just we're going to let these people out. So they started letting people out, and the caliber of inmates that they were letting out, I pointed out several of them. Lifelong, heavy-duty drug dealers. There was one guy that was in there for aggravated assault on a child less than 11 years old. There were people in there with sex crimes. There were people in there with robbery charges, weapons charges. for the media to keep saying, and the politicians that are involved in this, is it's just misdemeanors and low level nonviolent crimes. Don't worry about it. You're all biased. You want to keep people in jail. You want
fear mongering.
Fear mongers. All you're doing is fear mongers. Fear mongering. Your legislation let child beaters and burglars and people committing sex crimes and obstruction of breathing charges and weapons charges, you let people walk out the door. How can you say that's fear-mongering when it's the absolute God's honest truth of cases right out of the court? People with assaults with weapons charges are walking out with ROR. I'm here 31 years. It'll be 32 in July. I never thought I would see this. It goes back to like the movie The Purge or Marathon Man, that type of stuff. Yep. They think they're making a utopia. Where's Snake Plissken? New York's going to be surrounded by a wall one of these days.
Hey, Cuomo set back domestic violence 30 years.
No doubt.
30 years he set it back right to the beginning.
And if you notice, when they had all those hate crimes going on with the Orthodox Jewish community in the city, Cuomo got up there and he talked about how we have to put laws in effect that make this a domestic terrorism crime. You know why he did that? Because there already were laws in the state. You had hate crimes as assault charges and hate crimes in and of themselves, that now you can't hold those people anymore. So now we're trying to figure out, how the hell do I get out from under this without looking like an asshole? Let's make this a domestic terrorism charge. Then they got the feds to come in and take over, and it was absolute hate crimes. Hate crimes, all the stuff that's gone on here, and now you walk out the door with an ROR or a desk appearance ticket. All right, that's it for the second section of this. This is Nassau Coba Monthly. We're going to take another quick break. We'll be back with what we're hoping the next year is going to bring, and some of the few issues I want to touch on. Brian Sullivan, President of Nassau County Correctional Benevolent Association, Nassau Coba Monthly. We'll be back.
Helix and Gene is the #1 medical wellness company on Long Island. Their unique system was created by medical physicians, functioning medical practitioners, and spine stabilization specialists. Through proper scientific use of their in-house DNA technology and their #1 rated food sensitivity test, Helix and Gene is able to collect information from your body that will help you become your best self. Their emphasis is on your health. Weight loss is just a byproduct. The most unique aspect of their program is their personal coaches. This separates them from any other program in the market. Helix and Gene clients are never alone. From the moment they decide to embark on their journey to the very end, the ongoing support and guidance clients receive from nutrition and fitness coaches is truly what helps them succeed. Our coaches are there to hold your hand until they feel that you are ready to sustain yourself. Unlike other programs, Helix and Gene clients learn how to sustain what the program has taught them. You can find out more about Helix and Gene by visiting www.helixandgene.com or calling 516-723-9854. That's www.helixandgene.com or 516-723-9854.
Okay, welcome back to Nassau Coba Monthly, the January 2020 edition. I'm Brian Sullivan, President of the Correctional Office, Nassau County Correctional Officers Benevolent Association. I'm back with John Hogan, second VP. The last section that I'm going to touch on here is just a little bit of a look forward into 2020 and exactly what some of the challenges are that are facing us, aside from obviously criminal justice reforms and what's going to happen to our department and how it's contracting and is it going to come back, and how many inmates did we lose, how many more are we going to lose, and how many are we going to get back when they start rolling back into the system again. The priority for this next season is, this next year, I should say, is the new sheriff. Vera Flood handed in her notice of resignation. She's going to be leaving the end of January 31st. Notices were put out for a new sheriff. Things were put on the normal circuits that they want to hire a new sheriff here. I'm glad that they have that there's qualifications in there. You need a minimum of 10 years of correction experience.
Thank God.
We've had some people in here, but listen, we've had people in here that had 25 years of correction experience that didn't do so great for us. We had our own people that didn't do so great for us. We had people from the city that didn't do so great for us. Then we had a cook in here for 10 years, and we know exactly flipping eggs for 10 years. But with regards to Vera, I've known Vera, like I've said on numerous occasions, for more than 30 years, and I was actually very happy when they named Vera to be the sheriff here when they first put her in here 2 years ago, because on its face, Vera was here for 30 years. She knows the place inside and out. She knows the struggles we've had. She knows a lot of the problems that have gone on here. She knows a lot of the gripes of the union. We've certainly been very public about what was going on. And I had a lot of hopes that we'd be able to rectify a lot of things. Unfortunately, it didn't work out that way. I did not have the relationship with Vera that I had hoped. The lines of communication were not open from their end. I tried on numerous occasions to try and have a working relationship, and people are going to laugh at me when I say this. I had better communication with Mike Sposato when he was the sheriff here. I would never say that I wanted Mike Sposato back as the sheriff, because that was, we all know, I'm not going to recap any of that stuff because it's 2 years gone. But I was not happy at all about the lack of communication, the lack of cooperation with Vera and her administration. It appeared that she was either steered away from the union. You know, we have the whole Captain Peabody issue again, where he was kind of put too much in a prominent position, and I think he's been making too many decisions here. And I had really hoped that we would have a better relationship, and we didn't. The union came out, and some people were not happy that the union came out, and we talked about that during the elections. We're not going to recap all that stuff again, but you know, we're going to see moving forward. We're gonna see exactly what the next sheriff is going to be. I'm hopeful that, again, we're going to bring somebody in from within our ranks. We have several people that put in for it. I know a lot of our captains put in for it. I think they're all very qualified to do the job, and I'm certainly hope that they're given a chance to come out and show what they can do. And we know we're always going to have monetary problems here, and they're going to serve at the pleasure. That's one of the problems we have here with an appointed sheriff in Nassau County. Instead of elected, they serve at the pleasure of a county executive and a county administration. But I'm hopeful that at some point we're going to get actual cooperation from the department's administration first, because a lot of times the county will leave the department to run itself. They say, here's what your money is. It's in this little basket. Don't go over it. And if you have any problems, don't call us. And then the union has to get involved, because we come to these stalemates. We have a lot of issues, obviously, we all know, with the infrastructure. We have problems with the contract talks that are going on. I'll get into that in a second. And you know, we have especially with the place contracting, like I said, everything else, that we're going to need to have somebody that's going to be willing to cooperate with the union. We have to have an open line of communication. I've said on numerous times I couldn't get Vera to sit down and have a cup of coffee with me in a diner just to talk about things until November of her first year in here. That's unacceptable. I don't know how I was portrayed, or the union was portrayed, or she chose to see it that way. But
that's Golio chirping in the ear whole entire time.
That's Golio chirping, and it's the county not going around it, and and I've said it a number of times here. When you hide behind lawyers, nothing happens. We have the general counsel that's here, and we have Golio. Anytime you have an attorney that's involved in anything, they're going to tell you, don't do anything. Just sit there, because they're worried. They're worried about liability. Everything grinds to a halt. You need an operational person to run the jail that has to be able to make the hard decisions. That's going to be able to tell the union, no, I'm not doing that, or is going to be able to tell the union, all right, we're going to do this. I'll take your advice on that. We'll do what we can. I can do this. I can't do that. You just need an open policy. There's no need to be cloistered behind doors. There's no need to hide behind anybody or hide behind anything else. The best policy is just to be out in the open. Listen, I have this money. I'm the union. I can go after the county and get, go after them to get more capital money, to buy vehicles, to buy equipment, stuff like that. But I can't have an administration that's working against me by not working with us.
Hey, Brian, hold on 1 second. I just got a text from Dennis Morris wanting to congratulate Commissioner Donahue. He has just been appointed to the position of undersheriff. Undersheriff Donahue will report directly to Sheriff Flood. Please join us in congratulating Undersheriff Donahue.
You're kidding me.
Got it right now.
That's great. Okay. Fantastic. That couldn't have been any more.
I can't.
If this isn't everything that I just said, if this isn't an absolute
typical
thing that's gone on here,
You don't call the president of the union.
Nobody calls it. Listen, they don't have to. They don't have to do anything. I'm the county exec. I'm the sheriff. Who signed? Obviously, Vera signed the order. That had to be done, obviously, with the approval of the county. But
Golio.
Or Golio. We had to make sure that Golio approved it. It just shows the absurdity that we've been dealing with here for the last 2 years.
How perfect is that? I can't believe this.
How absolutely perfect is that? This is what I've been dealing with, what we've been dealing with here for the past 2 years. We have a new undersheriff appointed here, and we gotta get notified
that went out by the department wide.
But the union got notified the same time everybody in the department did by a departmental email. Okay.
Sorry about that, brother.
Yeah. Listen, I don't even know how to react. I know how I want to respond to that, but I got a microphone in front of my face, so opening up the door, making a few phone calls, and telling people to go off themselves is probably not the best thing that I should be doing right now because it doesn't help anybody. But that's exactly what I feel like doing.
Hey, how are those Mets doing?
Yeah, exactly. This is absolutely atypical of what's gone on here, where there is just either the administration or the department or the county doesn't trust the union to tell them what they're doing and to be a part of the process. It infuriates me. It absolutely infuriates me, and it's another example of why you have to fight these people on every damn thing that goes on here.
It's a shame.
They don't have the common courtesy to tell the union, the president of the union, that they're appointing the number 2 position, the undersheriff in here, which comes with 1,000 questions. What does that mean? Is he going to be the next sheriff? Is he going to be the interim sheriff? Is he going to be the...
Well, I don't even know if the county started. I know they wanted to start interviews
next week.
Right. So, and Vera steps down on the 28th, I think, right? Or the 31st?
The 31st, but it might be
okay.
Depends on what the holiday is.
Well, you're not vetting anybody
in a week and a half. Right.
I hope to God they don't.
No. Because then they didn't do their due diligence.
Right. So that puts Danny right in the spot.
That puts Danny right there, and all indications, at the very least, he'll probably be named the acting sheriff for a little while until they find what goes on. But it's just, if this isn't absolutely atypical, why I have to fight these people on everything, going from longevity to NIFA lawsuits to all the different things we've done here, is that they just do, and they think that the unions, and it's not just us, because I deal with it with the PD, with the detectives, with everybody else. I don't know whether it goes back because we didn't back the county executive initially for these things, but they don't. They look at the unions, and I talked to some of my people here that we. With UConn, because there's a lot of work that is done with unions, and the Democrats they're all very union slanted, and they're for the unions and everything else. This is another example of how the unions in Nassau County, and you have a Democratic administration and Democratic appointees, and they don't think to tell you when they do things. That's a kind way of putting it. And then when I bitch about it afterwards, I didn't realize you didn't like this. Not that I don't like Danny or whatever, anybody being there. That's not the issue. The issue is the issue is they do things, and then when you come out swinging afterwards and say, "Are you kidding me? What the fuck did you do this for?" You don't like that? Yeah. And now I got you in court. Now I got you here. Now I got you there. I got you in the news. Everything else, and they look at you like you're crazy because they just think they can do and say whatever they want, and there's no blowback. All right, listen, to wrap up what we're doing here,
you got to move on a little bit.
We got to move on a little bit. Just to touch on, we've been in
this will be a 4-hour segment.
Yeah, exactly. I'll be here banging my head against this microphone. But our members, we also recently that the Nassau County Detectives, they got an agreement in principle. They ratified with their members. The members ratified it by 2/3 vote. Some people like the deal. Some people don't like the deal. Most of the detectives like the deal. They fixed all their steps so people can become detectives. There's issues with the health. There's contributions into the health benefits and everything else. I just want to tell our members that that's their deal. We are not close to a deal yet with us. We're still in conversations. It kind of fell off the last month or two between the holidays, and I knew that they got a little bit more in depth with the detectives, and they ended up hammering out an agreement. And it's the end of this month. It has to be ratified by the Nassau County Legislature. I've spoken to my attorneys about it. We poured through their contract. There's a lot of good in that contract. There's some stuff obviously that we don't like, but I just have to tell everybody that's their deal. That's not our deal. They start putting the what the hell do you call it? The pattern bargaining together because they want to have certain things. They're following along the line of Suffolk County with this medical benefits and stuff. But just, I want to reassure our members, rest assured that we're not just going to be walking into a thing and giving up health benefits and you're not getting nothing for it. It's obviously on the table. It's not on our table. It's not part of our proposals. It's on the table for the county. It's one of their proposals, something they obviously want, but we want too. So just remember that we're going to be in it. If it's something that we don't believe is good for our members, and if it's not something that we believe our members would pass and be able to deal with, and it's not beneficial to your members, you're not going to see it. So I'm just going to leave it at that with that type of an agreement. We need to fix a lot of problems here. Like I said, there's a lot of things that need to be fixed here. There are step problems that need to be fixed here. There's a lot of things that have been taken from us over the years, and a lot of stuff that I want to fix, and there's a lot of member benefit stuff that I want to.
A lot of language in the contract has to be fixed.
A lot of language in the contract that has to be fixed, and there's a myriad of things. We've got probably 4 pages of stuff that I want done here, and once we get back into negotiations in earnest, we're gonna see where we go. So don't anybody think that this is just the writing on the wall and we're gonna eat a shit sandwich. I've heard that already, but if we're in the room and it's not something that I think is good for our members, you're not gonna see it, and we're gonna just take it from there. If you don't have anything else, John, I think we're gonna wrap it up for this month.
Well, we did have Kevin Curtin. But I just got a phone call during the break that he was involved in a very high-level chess game with his best friend and partner.
Who called you? The new undersheriff that we didn't know about? All right, we're gonna wrap it up there. This is the January 2020 edition of Nassau Coba Monthly. I am Brian Sullivan, president of the Nassau County Correctional Officers Benevolent Association. The holidays are over. We're going into a new year. I wish everybody well, and we'll be in touch. Take
Guys,
care.
Be safe. And happy travels.
That's it. We'll talk soon.
Good night, Kevin.